One thing I love about the first days on Paladium is that there are bases everywhere, and especially thanks to some beginner players, you can find them really close to spawn, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm going to cover the area all around the Paladium spawn, and we'll try to raid as many bases as possible. Unfortunately, Pilot's software is banned this season, so we'll have to do it manually, but that's okay. If we want to go look for bases, the first step will be to get an unclaim finder. Instead of crafting one myself, I'm just going to buy an unclaim helmet directly from the market. It costs $19,000 and it lets you access the unclaim finder directly in your interface without having to hold it. It's convenient. The problem is that right now on Paladium, I have $18,000 and that's thanks to the pickaxes I sold in the last episode. But the helmet with the unclaim helmet enchantment alone costs $19,000. And on top of that, you have to add an unclaim finder for $9,000. We need to make some money. I asked the faction, and apparently the most effective strategy to make money at this stage is sand. And it's true. Look, when I go to the admin shop, a sand block sells for 30 cents. For example, right now I'm in a biome that has sand. If I dig a little underneath, I can directly get sandstone. And if I put this sandstone in a compacting drawer, it lets me get 4 sand blocks at once. That means a single block of sandstone gives me more than $1. It's rigged. Alright, let's take advantage of it as quickly as possible, because with the way the admin shop works, the more people use this technique, the more the price should structurally go down. I think after just 30 minutes of farming, I end up with 40,000 sand blocks. And now comes the fun part where I have to drop everything and sell it all manually on the market. For those who remember, in the last season, the faction actually had a drop machine. That made this strategy a lot easier, but it especially requires Paladium hoppers, which are currently way too expensive on the server. Anyway, in the end, I sold everything and managed to pass the $27,000 mark. Just to test it out, look, I also put some sand on the market at $1 per unit. That's almost 4 times more expensive than what I can sell it for at the admin shop. Honestly, it might sell since sand is needed in large amounts for building some claimed bases. Now I can buy my helmet and the unclaimed finder to combine them. But I won't start looking for bases yet because I want to progress in the dungeons first, especially since some players in the rankings already reached tier 101. I don't know how they did it. And a lot of you asked me in the comments to try out the spell I unlocked at the end of the last episode. Right here I have 5 keys for the Vitalis dungeon, so let's have some fun. So now we're in the first room. And if I use the spell, okay, actually, that's pretty cool. Well, it's just a dash, nothing too amazing. But honestly, it's just really useful for dodging attacks. Remember, each spell has multiple levels, and we're currently at the most basic. I should also collect as many little jars as possible since they contain better spells. I'm going to move forward calmly through the dungeons because we have objectives that depend on them. But I also need to tell you about the Fuse faction. So the first thing you'll notice is that my logo is prominently displayed on it. That's one of the new features of V12 with the faction crest system, but not all factions have their own crest. That's because it unlocks starting from tier 4 in the general technology tree. And currently, only a few factions have reached this level. We're working on tier 5 and have unlocked everything. You must customize your crest and walk 250,000 blocks, which is done. To reach the next tier, you also have to wait a set time each time. For example, in 12 hours, we'll get a 10% reduction in claim damage. I'm not exactly sure what claim damage is, but most importantly, what we'll unlock is the ability to set an F home, which is one of the basic things for a faction, and will unlock an extra slot inside the faction, because right now, there are 40 of us in the Fuse faction, but only 25 slots. We've also unlocked tier 2 in the looting skill. That officially lets us spawn baby withers. And for tier 3, we'll need to craft cave blocks. We need to make 2 receptacles and craft 5 baby wither gems. Honestly, those aren't too hard as requirements, but where we've really worked hard with the Fuse faction is in terms of money. Now look inside the bank chest, we're at $234,000. That's basically double what we had yesterday. Well, Fuse, the tiers are all well and good, but what does it look like in terms of ranking? Is reaching the top spot one of your goals? Yes, that is true. In the last episode, the server's faction ranking wasn't activated yet. It was activated last Monday, and my episode came out on Sunday. So that means since Monday, the Fuse faction is officially ranked, and we're currently 12th, which isn't too bad. Actually, we've gained 2 spots since yesterday, look, and we're in the bronze division. For now, no faction has enough elo to be above bronze.
So this week is really a learning week for us. We're going to discover the events. So the goal for the coming weeks is to slowly climb the rankings until we reach the top spot in the faction rankings. So all the factions are ranked in what's called an elo system. It's a point system where the more points you earn, the higher you climb. The ranking is divided into 5 leagues. The goal, obviously in the long term, is to climb up in this league, of course, to reach the top spot. The only way to earn elo is to participate in the faction events that are organized every week. That's where everything happens. If you compete and win, you gain elo and move up. If you don't participate all week, you automatically drop down a league. So the idea is really to be active in these events because that's what determines everything that follows. On top of that, every week there's a huge bundle of of shop points that's distributed among the top 50 factions. Around 1 to 1.5 million shop points are distributed weekly, along with a set amount of money in dollars directly added to the faction bank each week. And again, the higher you rank, the more you get. And finally, at the end of the season, there will be an overall ranking that will reward all the best factions from all the leagues combined. The very top factions win exclusive cosmetics and caps with their faction's name on them, which I think is really cool.
I'm not sure, but it seems to me that organized events are the only way to earn elo. We'll have to check that. We'll give the faction a little help a bit later. But for now, we mainly need to start searching for bases. I have my unclaimed helmet, and if I want to look for bases, I'll also need a cave block. It costs $118 on the market. I'll get it. But honestly, I'm really out of money now. It's starting to get really tough. Still, I have to give the faction a little help, otherwise I'm useless. I'm going to add $3,000 to the faction bank, which is half of what I have left. And don't worry, I'll go back to farming sand anyway to raise that score a bit. Well, while I'm leaving the war zone to go look for my first bases, I have to admit I lied to you a little. In the intro, I mentioned that novice players set up bases near the spawn, which has always been true on Paladium. I remember doing the same when I started in factions. I used to walk about 3,000 blocks thinking no one would find me that far from spawn. Spoiler, that's not true. In the early game, we often found bases near spawns. Except that in the last episode, I came across this comment. Fuse, hide your base near the spawn. Mine lasted 3 months last season. The reason for that is pretty simple. It's this command /RTP. It's a command that was added, I think, 2 or 3 seasons ago, and when you use it, it teleports the player to random coordinates. For example, here I got teleported to minus 11,000, 13,000, and this command on Paladium, everyone uses it, which means that nobody builds their base near the spawn anymore, because people are only teleported within this range between 10,000 and 15,000 blocks from the spawn. Except that, as a result, some clever players, like the person who left this comment, actually build their base near the spawn, paradoxically. So there might be a world where the best gear can be found right next to the war zone. That's what we're going to find out. So I went looking for bases, and in less than 30 minutes, look, here we're at 19%. There's definitely someone who passed through here. But no, look, well, I'm annoyed. It's just empty chests that were placed here. I really checked all the chests. They're all completely empty. Just to be sure, I even placed some cave blocks. It would have been a sneaky move to hide a base underneath. Nothing to report. All right, on to the next base. While I'm searching, we need to get back to the discussion about the goals we have for this season. In the last episode, we set a few goals for the season, but not many. First, I'm thinking that since we didn't complete the goal of doing a stealth raid last season, we'll add it. Another goal is to finish the entire tech tree. Honestly, that seems totally reasonable to me. Someone suggested that we make a goal related to lucky blocks. Honestly, why not? But it's true that, for example, finishing a lucky stat is almost impossible. Alright, let's add it. I'm not specifying which lucky block's lucky stat, but that'll force us to open a few of them. And on the list, I also suggest building a museum that must contain at least 30 rare items from Paladium. They have to be somewhat collectible items that aren't easy to get. I think we've got a pretty solid list of objectives here. And actually, on this list, we have to find 30 bugs. Fuse, eh? There's a bug where the armor disappears during a dash. That's something you noticed in the last episode. When you use the dash spell, for a split second, your armor disappears. You're right, that's our second bug this season. To follow the Paladium adventure and see if we can complete all our goals, subscribe to the channel as usual. Alright, I promise. Regarding the challenge of buying Paladium in real life, I'm working on it. I was just calmly searching for raids when a faction member messaged me. Hey, I found quite a few bases that I haven't raided yet, with players often online inside. Interested? Of course I'm interested. Plus, he says there are players who are often online inside. If we can already achieve our goal of a stealth raid, that would be incredible. So he teleported me to the first coordinates. Apparently, it looks like a small farm. So we're going to go down, and indeed it's definitely a small farm with a little bit of titanium in a furnace, and not much in the chest. Well, there are a few ores, especially some fondium. That could be pretty interesting because fondium can be used to craft cave blocks. And we saw it a little earlier, but in the list of requirements to progress on the skill tree, we actually need to craft 100 cave blocks. Now, I'm at the coordinates of the second raid. Now, this already seems more interesting to me because there are diamond chests. Okay, well, for now I take back what I said. It's empty. Just some sugarcane and seeds. Here there are some Gauss's blocks. There's a night music disc. Okay, just a bunch of useless stuff. Well, it's still an early season raid. Then he teleported me to this spawner. At first, it doesn't look like a base. No chests are visible, but he says there's an Arpagophyton base underneath. Arpagophyton, just as a reminder, are the little plants that let you lower the percentages of bases. And if you look more closely, look underneath, you can see the characteristic outlines of crystal chests. Bingo! I have to admit, using crystal chests is clever. Without knowing about the base, I might have missed them. Let's check it out. And usually, when it's Arpagophyton bases, yeah, there's definitely stuff there. For sure, we're going to treat ourselves. Oh, he startled me from behind. Let's begin with this chest. Whew, Where do I begin? Almost everything here is pricey. Interestingly, there are also several dungeon potions like this heroin potion. Apparently it's a legendary potion. It must be a bit expensive. It gives regeneration, health, speed, damage, and resistance. Honestly, since dungeons are much harder than before, it can really be useful. There are some small rings. There are other small potions that are a bit less rare, but we'll still take them. There are also stones that let you spawn baby withers. That means it's a base that belongs to a member of a faction that's at least somewhat advanced, because as I explained before, you need to be at least tier 2 to be able to craft this item. There are lots of small rings. I think it's a guy who plays PvP. There are sticks. I think at this point, just with this first chest, we've doubled our wealth. Alright, I'll take the chest too. Might as well, I'm a real scavenger. Now let's go for the second chest. Apparently it only contains ores. I'm going to treat myself a little here. Some palladium, amethyst, and titanium. Honestly, we're having a great time. Let's also remember to get Apagaphytum, which is pricey early in the season due to few alchemists. By now, I thought he'd run out of bases to offer. But he actually teleported me to another base, and I was initially disappointed. There wasn't much of interest, just some minor alchemist items and drawers with not so valuable things. When suddenly, wait, there's a guy who just logged in. Quick. Okay, yeah, I wasn't prepared at all. It's a shame. If our timing was right, we almost pulled off a stealth raid. I just need to buy some PvP gear. Now I'm getting Stick of Gods. We're going back. Come on. Yes! The first kill of the season. Well, it's not a huge achievement. The guy didn't have any gear. He just had some travel gear. Which also explains why there wasn't much in his base. Well, that's one thing taken care of, at least until I got this message from a member of the faction. Who are you guys raiding? There's a guy in the voice chat who said, Fuse is in my base. So I checked all my DM tabs. Honestly, I think this is my favorite feature of this V12 of Paladium. And the guy we just raided tells me, I'm from the faction, bro, just not in game since it's full. Ah! So I still asked Pilot for confirmation. He told me yes, he was part of the faction. Oops. I'm returning his stuff to the bro. Shows how small the world is. If you're wondering why I was able to kill him, it's just because the faction doesn't have room for everyone. That's why we're rushing skill upgrades to prevent this situation. Apparently, he's not mad. It's fine. There was no gear. Thanks, bro. It's fine. You didn't know because I'm not in game. I didn't cause much of a diplomatic incident. It was cool of Leo Prats to share his raids with me, but now I need to look for raids near the spawn again. Needless to say, it wasn't as simple as just getting teleported. I spent almost 3 hours searching. I came across empty chests. Some spawners that obviously didn't contain any Arpagophytum, but after a while, I finally came across... Oh! Right here, guys, we're on a massive skybase. What's more, it's a skybase made entirely out of ghost blocks. I think we're in for a treat. And look, we're 600 blocks away from spawn, which means the strategy works. Right now, I'm building a pillar to go raid it. But since I'm a really good YouTuber who optimizes watch time, I'm going to show you how I'm doing with my dungeons. So right now, especially on Vitalis, which is the dungeon we're currently grinding, we've managed to reach tier 12. That makes me the 176th player in the rankings. And since there's a boss every 5 levels in the dungeons, I had to fight this guy. Boss fights are a bit tougher now. Bro did a lot of damage to me. I was this close to dying, but I still managed to make it through. And when I finished the dungeon, I was pleasantly surprised to see that I dropped these 2 things. They're spell scrolls like the ones we used in the last episode. So let's see what we've unlocked, huh? So... I just used them, and unlike the first time in the last episode, this time it actually made my spell level bar go up a little bit. Alright, got it. I thought scrolls would unlock all tiers immediately, but you actually need many scrolls to level up spells. I get it now. It's pretty cool. If I reach tier 2, my dash will do more damage. I also found a Talicus chestplate among my loot. So yes, right now we're doing the Vitalis dungeon. But hey, this will come in handy when we do Talicus. In the meantime, I put everything I looted up for sale to try to make a bit of money. And we also reached level 7 in the RPG. I'm going to put a few points into defense, but mostly into damage, because honestly I'm really bad right now, and you should know that in this season skill points actually let you unlock even more things. If we reach max level, we can unlock all the skills. Anyway, a raid is waiting. I'm finishing the pillar so we can reach the base to raid, and how I found it was really funny. I came across empty chests out in the wild again. There was really nothing in them at all. Some of them were even hidden underground. And after destroying all of them, I realized there was still one left in the area. And sure enough, when I looked up, there was a skybase. So, we're heading up there now. First, you notice some Apagophytum. That's why we have just 1%. Even with 2 chests and a grinder, it costs $2,000. I'll collect them, yeah. So the first thing I notice is that there are 26 Paladium in the grinder. In the first chest, there are ores. Alright, I'll take everything. I'm just going to set up the patterns that let me collect resources from the grinder. Now, little by little, I'm going to get the Paladium blocks from the grinder. This chest is full of ores, so I'll take it. It'll help when we mine. So you'll notice that I didn't put it on my list of goals. But that doesn't mean we won't try to level up the jobs, right? While I'm at it, I'll also take the grinder because at this point in the season, it can be sold for a pretty good price. I'm still going to collect cave blocks since they sell for $250 each. With the quantity available, it's quickly profitable, especially at the start of the season. And the funniest thing about all this is that if I jump from here and go in this direction, in just 30 seconds, I'll be in the war zone. Today's lesson, build your base near the spawn so I can raid it. If you like this Paladium episode and want more, leave a like, subscribe, and join the war zone. Bye everyone, this is Fuse. See you next time.